Welcome back to Adventures in Randomia, my solo D&D adventure series. This is episode 11, in which our party gets involved in an unexpected adventure in the town of Ycehollow. At the end of this episode, you will have the opportunity to have your say on what the party chooses to do next. I hope you enjoy it. Please do let me know in the comments. Last time, our party returned to Ycehollow and spent the morning shopping. They also booked passage on the boat The Frosty Maiden, bound for Everpool the next day, to continue their journey to the Wizard's Tower on the shores of Lake Illuminata. We rejoin our adventurers as they have a free afternoon to do as they wish before their travel the following day. Clarissa heads up to the room that she shares with Freya. She unrolls the map that she has just bought and spreads it out on the wooden dresser. She scrutinises the map, which covers the whole of the realm of Randomia. Her eye is drawn towards the south, where she can see the jungle and desert regions. She notes that there are 3 cities: Korakur on the coast, Kagawa deep in the jungle, and Astartes out in the desert. She wonders whether Tabaxi may live in any of these places. Then she finds Everpool on the north coast, and she inks in the route from Ycehollow. She looks down towards Lake Illuminata. The Wizard's Tower must be somewhere along this lake shore. She then wrinkles her nose. She still has doubts about this wizard, but can't seem to stop this path that they have embarked upon. Meanwhile, Freya heads back into the main town of Ycehollow. She walks down the length of the front and finds a blacksmith down by the dockyards. She goes inside to get her great axe sharpened. A tough-looking young female half-orc looks up and grunts.
What do you want, little dwarf?
"Hello, can you sharpen my axe for me?" asks Freya.
Sure, bring it here,
replies the blacksmith, and she takes it over to the grindstone.
This is a fine axe. Where did you get it from?
The half-orc asks. "Oh, my grandpappy gave it me. He was a blacksmith too," replies Freya. The half-orc looks up at Freya with an expression that suggests she does not believe this story.
You're going on some adventure with it then?
"Oh yes, we're going west to find a wizard's tower near Lake Illuminata."
Sure you are. There you go, that'll be 5 silver.
Freya pays the coin and heads back outside. She then walks back up the long main street towards the Salty Dog, enjoying the fine spring weather and taking the sights of Market Day in Ycehollow. So we ask the question, does she encounter anything while she is out? We roll a 14 on the Q&A oracle, so yes she does. We then roll on the urban encounter table and we get a 58. Suddenly, Freya hears a commotion from a jeweller's shop nearby. The jeweller has just rushed outside his shop and is exclaiming that he's been robbed by dwarves. There happens to be another dwarf standing nearby, who asks him what proof does he have of this. "Of course it's dwarves, they lust after gems constantly," replies the jeweller. "I will go to the guard's office to report this right now." Freya shrugs and continues walking up the main street. She wonders to herself, why do dwarves have such a reputation for desiring treasure? Oh, and that reminds me, I must look for a shop in Everpool to sell that treasure we got from the castle. With the free afternoon, Connor is at a bit of a loose end. He completed all the shopping he wanted to do in the morning. Then a thought tugs at his mind, one he hasn't had in a while. That old thieves' habit is beckoning. Surely it wouldn't hurt just to do a bit of snooping around, would it? He decides to head out into the back streets of Ycehollow. So we ask the question, does his old gang operate in this area? And we get a 7, so no it doesn't. He is relaxed as he knows there is no danger of encountering anyone from his old gang. He spends a couple of hours checking around, looking for thieves' marks, and keeping an eye out for any shady business that might be going on. So we ask the question, does he find any thieves' marks in Ycehollow? We roll a 2, so no he doesn't. He finds no recent thieves' marks on any buildings. There are some very old marks, but clearly these have not been maintained. This is unusual. Thieves operate in every town, large and small. So we ask if he has an encounter while snooping around the back streets. We roll a 1, so this is no and. Something doesn't feel right. Connor thinks to himself, this town is quiet. Too quiet. I've got a bad feeling about this. So we ask the question, is there something going on in Ycehollow to suppress criminal activity? And we roll a 19, so yes there is. So we're going to roll on the story element tables to find out what's going on. We roll a d20 4 times, and it gives us the elements of a creature, an event, a person, and a situation. Then we roll on further tables to give us details about these elements. We get a giant lizard, a sudden storm, a sorcerer who has neutral evil alignment, And then for the situation, we roll on keywords and get fake, besiege, guard, and market. So let's see how this situation plays out. Connor heads back to the main street and decides to talk to the market traders to get a bit more information. He strikes up conversation with a young woman running a stall selling homemade jewellery. "These are lovely," he says, picking up one of the necklaces. "Oh, thanks," says the girl, blushing slightly. "Very skilled work. Did you make them yourself?" She nods. "I'm just visiting Ycehollow," he says. "Oh, right. I thought I didn't recognise you. Where are you from?" "Oh, I live in Everpool, but I'm thinking of moving to Ycehollow." "Oh, really?" says the girl, and she smiles at him. "What's it like to live here then? Is it a peaceful place?" "Oh, yes. We're blessed here. There is almost no crime. The gods have spoken against the thieves. They all die of a heart attack in their cells. It's a miracle." "They die in their cells? You mean in the town jail?" "Yes, there's been at least 10 that I've heard of in the past year." "Wow, Ycehollow is truly blessed." "So, do you want to buy a necklace for your girlfriend?" "Oh, I don't have a girlfriend." "Oh, really?" "No. Anyway, I need to go. Nice talking to you." And he heads off back to the Salty Dog, deep in thought. The three of them meet up again over an early supper that evening. Connor tells the others what he has discovered that afternoon. "Something's not right in this town," he says. "Every thief that is put in a cell in the town jail dies in the night from natural causes, apparently. The people think the gods are ridding them of thieves." "Of course, if they are wrongdoers," says Clarissa, "the gods should smite them down." "But the gods act through people, like your magic," replies Connor. "Someone in the town guard is abusing their power, killing thieves. Lots of thieves in the town jail." "So, they're just thieves," says Freya. "In Randomia, the punishment for thievery is imprisonment. Maybe even having a hand chopped off for repeat offenders, but killing, no. Even thieves are still people." "Well, if someone is abusing power, then we must act," says Clarissa. "Well, I have an idea. What if you bring me into the jail, saying you caught me stealing? Then the two of you wait to see if anything happens." "You mean we're going to stick out the jail?" says Freya with excitement. "Wait, I have a better idea." Freya then relays her story about the jeweller saying it was a dwarf who stole gems from his shop. "You could turn me in as that thief." So they agree to head down to the town jail later that evening. At around 9:30, Connor and Clarissa walk into the guard's station, holding Freya between them. They tell the desk guard that they have apprehended the jewel thief who was operating in the town earlier. The desk guard looks in the logbook. "Oh yeah, we had a report of a gem theft earlier today, and that was committed by a dwarf." He doesn't ask any more questions. "Okay, little lady, well, you can remove those weapons and that armor for a start." Freya has to give up her hand axes and breastplate. She decides to leave her great axe at the inn for safekeeping. The guard then drags her through the door to the back, and we hear him call, "Hey, Clancy, got one for you. Open up." Connor uses his stealth and comes over to the partly open door and peers through to see what is going on. A second guard emerges from the guard's room carrying with him a bunch of large keys. He unlocks the metal barred gate and grabs Freya roughly by the arm. "Come on, thief, this way," he says, and he pushes her along the corridor to the single cells at the end. So let's find out which cell he puts her in. We roll a 1, which is the cell at the far end of the corridor. The first guard takes Freya's gear and heads over to a small storeroom next to the guard's room. He unlocks this with a small set of keys on his belt. He comes back into the front lobby. "Okay, she's safely locked away now. Thank you for being good citizens. You can go now." Connor then casts suggestion on the desk guard. He suggests that they are feeling unwell and that they need to go home and sleep. The guard fails the wisdom check. "Oh gosh, I'm not feeling too great. My shift is nearly over. I'm going to go home to bed." So we ask the question, does he leave the storeroom keys behind? We roll an 11, so this is yes, but. He unclips the keys from his belt and places them in the desk drawer. He then locks that drawer with the small key and puts that in his pocket. As the guard walks towards the front door, Connor attempts to take the key from his pocket. However, the guard is walking too quickly and he fails. Once the desk guard has left, Connor then disguises himself as this guard and takes his place at the desk. He then tries to pick the lock at the desk drawer. We roll a 13 for thieves' tools. After a few moments, he has the desk drawer open. He pulls out the bunch of small keys and gives these to Clarissa. Clarissa then uses her stealth and sneaks through the door to the back. She manages to find the key to the storeroom and unlocks it. She goes inside and closes the door gently behind her. She has a look around for Freya's gear. She rolls a 19 for perception. She very quickly spots it in a box in the corner. She grabs the hand axes and puts them into the pockets of her coat. She crouches at the back of the storeroom and settles in to wait. At 10 o'clock, the night guard arrives. 2 guards come in the front door together. "Hoi, Frank, how's it going?" one of them asks. Connor tries to remember Frank's accent.
"Fine, thanks. We got a new prisoner, a gem thief. Clancy's taken her into the cells."
Connor rolls a 12 for deception. The younger guard looks at him. "You feeling okay, Frank?"
No, actually. I'm not feeling too good. Be glad to get off to bed."
Which cell is the new prisoner in?
asks the older guard.
"I dunno. You better ask Clancy."
"Okay, thanks, Frank. You can head off now."
"Okay, I just need to tidy up some papers and then I'll be off."
The 2 night guards head through the back to the guards' room. Connor uses his stealth again and listens at the door. He can hear some muffled conversation, but no detail. Then he hears the guards coming back, so Connor ducks down behind the desk. Clancy comes out and the younger night guard follows him with the bunch of large keys.
"See you in morning, George,"
says Clancy as he heads out the door. The young night guard locks the front door behind him and then returns to the guard room at the back. Connor then creeps out the back and goes to join Clarissa in the storeroom. Clarissa gets a shock as he opens the storeroom door until he remembers to remove his disguise. Connor then sends a message to Freya.
"We're all in place here. How about you?"
"Yes, I'm still here. Not going anywhere." Nearly an hour passes. They hear the town clock strike 11. Then there is the noise of one of the guards unlocking the metal gate, and they hear his footsteps echo down the corridor. Connor messages Freya again.
"There's a guard on his way. Shout if anything happens."
So let's roll to check if this guard attacks Freya. We roll a 7, so no. There's a period of silence. Then they hear the footsteps of the guard coming back. Connor messages, "What happened?" "Nothing," replies Freya. "He just had a quick look and then he walked away." Another hour passes. Then they hear the sound of a guard at the gate again. Connor peers out through the keyhole of the storeroom door. This time it's the younger guard. Again, we roll to check if there's an attack. This time we roll a 4, so no there isn't. Again, the guard walks down the corridor to the cell at the far end, has a quick check on Freya, and then walks back again.
"Maybe I've got all this wrong," says Connor. "I'm sorry, Clarissa."
"Well, we're locked in now," she replies. "We'll just have to sit it out." Another hour passes, and they hear a single chime from the town clock. Again, they hear a guard unlocking the gate. Connor peers out, and this time he can see it's the older guard again. Connor messages Freya.
"There's another guard coming your way. Shout if anything happens."
This time we roll a 16, so there's going to be an attack. The guard walks down the corridor and round to the cell, and this time unlocks it and goes inside.
"So, little dwarf thief,"
says the guard menacingly.
"you are going to tell me where you've hidden those jewels."
The guard casts Shocking Grasp. He places his hand on Freya's chest, and a jolt of electricity courses painfully through her, making her heart miss a beat.
"Get off me, you monster!"
she shouts. Connor and Clarissa can hear Freya shouting, both through the message wire and from down the corridor.
"Yow, that's loud," says Connor, and he removes the wire from his ear.
So we roll for initiative. Connor gets 23, the guard 17, Freya 10, Clarissa 9, and the second guard 4. So we need to check whether the guard has left the metal gate unlocked. We roll a 16, so yes he has. Connor dashes down the corridor as fast as he can and manages to get just outside the cell. He is just in time to see the guard attack Freya using Shocking Grasp again. The electricity jolts painfully through her body again. This time, Freya goes into a rage. "That's not going to work on me," she cries. And she throws a punch at the guard, blooding his nose. Clarissa then uses her feline agility. She runs swiftly after Connor, carrying Freya's hand axes, and makes it to just outside the cell. "Freya, I've got your axes," she says. "Here, catch." And she throws the hand axes through the cell bars towards Freya. We roll a dexterity check for each of them. Clarissa makes a decent throw, but Freya completely fumbles the catch, and the axes clatter onto the floor beside the bed. Then we need to check if the other guard has heard the commotion. We roll an 11, so this is yes but. This suggests he has heard the noise, but doesn't respond. Maybe he knows all about these attacks, or maybe beating up prisoners is just usual practice. Connor casts Firebolt on the guard. He places his hands through the bars, and a bright burst of fire streaks across the cell. and strikes the guard square in the chest. A burst of heat erupts, engulfing him in flames. Realising he's under attack, the guard then casts Thunder Wave. He claps his hands together and a surge of power crackles around him. Then he releases a concussive blast in all directions, a booming thunder wave that reverberates through the air. The force crashes into Freya and Clarissa, the shockwave knocking them back, their ears ringing from the deafening noise. The blast propels Clarissa across the corridor and she crashes into the stone wall behind her. Connor manages to resist the knockback, but he is still jarred by the blast.
Who are you people?
The guard shouts.
You should all be dead by now.
Then, to their amazement, the guard undergoes a transformation. Scales begin to sprout across his body, stretching and morphing into a reptilian form. His features contort and reshape, his limbs elongating and gaining sinewy strength. With a newfound agility and speed, the now revealed lizard-folk sorcerer springs into action. He darts out of the cell and up the corridor.
Oh no you don't,
shouts Freya. She grabs her hand axes from the floor and charges after the lizard. The blade of her axe slices keenly through the air and connects with the scaly hide of the lizard, carving a deep gash across its reptilian skin. Having picked herself up from the knockback, Clarissa then casts Radiance of the Dawn. A radiant burst of divine energy erupts from Clarissa, enveloping the corridor in a blinding radiance. The lizard is hit with the full force of the blast, its scales searing and charring in the brilliant light. Clarissa then casts Spiritual Weapon. A shiny golden cat's paw appears in the corridor just above the lizard's head. The paw then makes a quick swipe at the lizard, the gleaming claws strafing across its head. So we then roll to check whether the second guard now comes to investigate all the noise. We've rolled a 16, so he does.
What the heck is going on?
He says as he emerges from the guard's room. He runs along the corridor and then spots the giant lizard.
What the fuck is that?
He shouts, and he shoots at it with his hand crossbow. The bolt finds its mark, piercing the air with a sharp whistle as it hurtles towards the lizard. The force of the impact jolts it, and a sharp sting of pain courses through its reptilian body. Connor then moves forward and casts Firebolt. With a swift incantation and a flick of his wrist, he conjures a scorching firebolt which bursts forth from his outstretched hand. The firebolt hits, scorching the lizard's scaly hide with a burst of intense heat and radiant flames. The lizard then runs towards the door at the end of the corridor. As it moves away from her, Freya gets an opportunity attack. She strikes with her hand axe, but misses. As the lizard realises the dire situation he's in, a wicked grin spreads across his reptilian face. He casts Gust of Wind. With a commanding gesture, the lizard conjures a mighty gust of wind that surges down the full length of the corridor. The howling wind creates a barrier, making it challenging for the party to advance further and close the distance on him. Freya has to use all her strength to avoid being pushed back by the wind. She charges at the lizard in order to make headway against the gust. She manages to close the distance and swings her hand axe at the lizard. The sharp edge gleams in the dim light as it slices into the scaly hide. Despite the strike from the axe, the lizard manages to maintain its concentration and the wind continues to blow. Clarissa fails the strength saving throw against the gust. She gets knocked back to the end wall of the corridor. She is knocked prone. She decides not to try to move forward again, but just moves up her spiritual weapon over the lizard's head. The shining golden cat's paw strikes out of the lizard, but just misses. The young guard runs up and peers around the corner, and the gust of wind blasts at him as he puts his head around. He can see Freya in front of the lizard, and he shouts, "Don't move, either of you, or I'll shoot!" He holds his crossbow in a shaking hand. Connor fails the strength check and is also knocked back by the gust to just in front of Clarissa. He then walks slowly forward against the gust and is only able to move 15 feet.
"Stand back, lad,"
he says to the young guard.
"This thing is dangerous."
He casts Suggestion on the lizard.
"I suggest you stop right there and come quietly," he says.
The lizard makes a wisdom save of 14. This succeeds.
"You can't affect me, wizard,"
it hisses.
"Sorcerer,"
says Connor. The lizard then strikes against the door to the sluice room with its claws. With a strength roll of 18, its claws slice into the wood and destroy the door. It makes a dash towards the grating at the end of the room.
"Quick!" calls Freya. "It's trying to get away down the sluice."
Again she has to use her strength to avoid being blown back by the gust. She rushes after the lizard. She strikes at it with both hand axes, one after the other. Only the main hand axe hits and strikes it in the back of the shoulder. Despite being very wounded now, the lizard still manages to maintain its concentration on the gust spell.
Don't kill it, calls Connor. I want to talk to it.
Clarissa already has her back against the far wall of the corridor, so the gust can't push her back any further. She uses her feline agility, but can still only get halfway up the corridor against the gust. Not being able to see the lizard now, there are no spells that she can use against it. The guard is even more bewildered now, seeing a tabaxi rush past him. He no longer knows what to do, seeing this crazy scene unfold before him. Connor now casts Sleep. It hits both the lizard and the young guard. There is a sudden hush in the corridor as the raging wind ceases.
"Oh, well done," says Freya. "It was about to escape down the sewer. I didn't fancy going down there after it."
Freya drags the sleeping lizard out of the sluice room. They carry him into the nearest cell and then tie him up tightly, making sure he's well gagged so he can't cast any spells. And there we will leave our adventurers. With only a few hours left before their boat departs in the morning, what will they do next? Do they leave this villain in the safe custody of the jail, leaving it to the guards to deal with him? Or do they try to interrogate him to discover where he may have stashed the loot from all the dead thieves? Or maybe there's another course of action. This time, you have the chance to influence what our party will do next. Vote for the options pinned in the chat, or let me know of your own ideas. Tune in again next time to discover where this story goes.